The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 6, Swear. Now, this was an interesting episode because it actually focused on our two characters that left. I say it was probably 3 or 4 episodes before last season's finale, so we have Tara and Heath, and they leave off. So it's like, alright, they leave off, and we don't know what happens with them at all in the last season. And all this insanity goes down. We have, of course, I still never remember the doctor's name, but Tara's girlfriend, she of course ends up getting killed, and then of course all the other madness with the Saviors. We lose, Abraham and Glenn, and the Saviors do all the other madness, kidnapping Daryl, and just being insane and chaotic to all these other, different groups and everything. And it was cool to see that, and I love the way they did. That was probably my favorite thing about the episode, is that they didn't hold off on it, because by the end of the episode we do get Tara coming back and she learns the truth about everything. But even when she's at this crazy camp, she finds out about the Savior. She's like, those people that you killed at that, satellite station, those are the Saviors, and there's way more of them, and if you guys actually did attack them, it's just going to be worse for your people. Like, it's already too late. It's going to be horrible, whatever you're going back to. Like, those people don't stop. And that's what truly happened to all the men. Like, we fought back, and we screwed up, and they took every boy 10 and older, and they just shot them all in the head and killed them off. So we're supposed to keep working, but we just left in the middle of the night. And I thought that was a cool way to do it, where she learns about the Saviors. It's not every single bit of information is, kind of just thrown at her as soon as she gets back, but most of it, still is. And that was probably my favorite thing about it. I was like, that's kind of cool. I like the way they did that, where she still finds out about them, even though she's so far away. The big mystery now is, where the heck is Heath? Because they don't have a scene at the end where he showed up, and, he's there waiting for her or anything like that. It's just nothing. Like, she gets back, she walked there, so either he's dead, which I doubt they'll do, like, just poof, he died off screen, or he ended up in one of the other communities. I feel like maybe he's, somehow made his way to the kingdom or something like that. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to end it, because we knew what happened, with Tara. It was kind of her whole episode, but Heath was like the mystery thing. Like, he was there, and we find out, of course, that he didn't actually die. It was just a woman that had the same hairstyle and was a zombie. And, he most likely took the card. We have the card that says PPP on it. I don't know what that means, so I am curious about that. But, hopefully that was him, that took the RV and drove off. So, it's still kind of up in the air, though, so we don't really know what happened to him just yet. So they're kind of leaving that. And honestly, that, kind of how they did the story and how Tara learned about everything, and then just the community itself, how it was so interesting with it being like all women, and us finding out the truth about why it's all women, and the way they typically do it, as far as security and stuff like that, where it's like, hey, you found us, we shoot you, and that's typically how they do it. Excuse me. I thought that was interesting. I was like, that's pretty cool. I like that idea. It was danger for survival's sake. They would go to like an insane extreme, to be totally honest. For the most part, at least, some of those people they killed probably were bad, but for the most part, I would think, it's random people, kind of like Tara, where Tara, whatever, she followed someone back who was helping her, and then she's in their camp, and it's like, well, we got to kill you now. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, I like their sort of new perspective, where it's just, that's what they do to survive now, because they went through that, and it makes more sense, especially when we find out the Savior stuff, because at first it was like, I understand why they do that for security and stuff, but it's just so insanely risky. Like, it's still way too risky to do something like that, or it's at least a bit too harsh. I shouldn't say risky for them, but I just think ultimately it's a bit harsh. And then when you get the story of the Saviors, it's like, man, especially, if you, even just from the series, like, especially knowing them from the comics, but even from the couple episodes they've been in this season, it's like, I could see how them being, like, way up here could push some people to go, like, just a little bit higher on what they would, normally do, and just kill people on sight that come into their camp, because they're so terrified that they would relive that experience with themselves being the ones, getting killed off, or maybe watching the younger kids get killed, or having the kids just stuck there with no adults, or something crazy like that. Maybe even worse, considering the saviors. So it was just very interesting. I was like, I like the story of this group, and I'm sure we'll see them again. They have a buttload of weapons. Um, Not sure how that's gonna play out exactly. If Tara's gonna go back and she'll be the one to say like, hey, we need your help, even though she made that promise. My girlfriend was, pointing this out a lot, where it's like, they showed us the guns and stuff like that, with them having a ton of weapons, and of course that's kind of Rosita's big thing at this point, like, we need weapons, so we gotta figure it out. And of course, actually the funny thing about it is, I know they're coming back, because in the opening, and I mentioned this, I think in the second or third episode, um, the actress for Tara, I can't think of her first name, but her thing is that boat that she was in. That's in the opening, and when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna do something off the water in this season," and I was actually really excited. And this episode finally came up, and I was like, "Okay, so this is what they were gonna do with her character." So I knew something was gonna happen with the water, because in the opening they had that turned over boat, and I was like, "Oh, that should be pretty cool." I'm excited to see what they do with that. So this is our introduction to it, but that's like that's her symbol, was that turned over boat basically in the opening. So she's going to be that connection between this very stringent and detached little community, and Alexandria, and eventually I would assume the hilltop and the kingdom. So I thought that was cool. I was like, I'm excited to see what they do with that. She's not in the comics, so this is like whole new territory as far as I'm concerned, unless it's a current thing from the comic books that I haven't read yet. But I'm excited to see how they do that. And it's a smaller community. It doesn't have a name or anything like that, but it's kind of that formula again. Kind of like with the kingdom. It's like, hey, here's another community. They've dealt with the saviors as well, so I am excited to see what they do with that, and how they somehow manage to convince these ladies to actually share their weapons and fight back against the saviors after everything they've gone through and the decisions that they've made. Like that young girl who's like, it's what we're supposed to do as far as killing other people off and stuff like that. And she wants to do it and things. She's just like a demon, because she was like the Omen. Didn't like her. Um, but it was cool. I was like, all right, I'm excited to see where they go with this village, how well things are gonna play out. Because like I said, at some point they're gonna go back, and I don't know if they're gonna be killing some people off when they go there, because of course the shoot on sight thing. So it's really hard to say how that's going to play out the next time around, but I am pretty sure they're going to be headed back based on the opening sequence with her character, or with the actress's name, and the boat being the symbol, and them having all the weapons at this point. They're the only people that really have anything. Um, the hilltop, we haven't really, they're basically like 100% farm. The kingdom probably has some weapons. It's literally called the kingdom, so they've got some stuff for sure, but it's not going to be enough to go against the saviors at this point. So they'll be getting incorporated somehow, this little seaside community. So I'm excited about that. Um, Other than that, it's like, I love the concept of the village and stuff like that. I like how they did the story. Other than that, there wasn't much to it. Like I said, the mystery of Heath, I think, is actually kind of exciting, because I'm like, oh, what are they going to do with him? Because he is from the comics, and I thought for sure, I was like, oh, they're twisting things around, and he dies, in a totally different way and stuff. Especially after they just came back, and it's like, dang, he hasn't even had the chance to be a character in this. I thought they were going to kill him. I was like, Jesus, he didn't even get a chance. So I was glad to see that he did survive, but now we have to find out where the heck he's going. We only have 2 more episodes left, which honestly is kind of insane, because when I saw that in the promo after this episode, I was like, they've done nothing. And that really upset me when I saw those, like, it's only 2 episodes left. I was like, for what? Like, nothing has happened yet. Like, everything is, and I've said this before, everything has been so separated. It's just been like, here's what's happening here, and here's what's happening there. But nothing's really coming together. Of course, the saviors are the big thread, but it's this really weird thing where the saviors are this really great thing, but it's moving way too slowly. And I guess it's almost like going through the experience of, the last finale, where we're waiting for something really epic to happen, and so I'm hoping something really good comes from this mid-season finale. Like, I have a couple guesses for where they might be headed. I don't know what they're going to be doing as far as this full season. I don't know how long Negan is going to be in the series, or how many seasons they're going to do that, or just all the stuff with Negan is a pretty huge deal. So it could, especially considering we're all almost halfway through and they've literally done nothing. Like the characters, that was the second episode, and no one has even seen the kingdom yet. It's still just, Carol and Morgan, and that's it. Like those, none of the other characters have even come across them. They mentioned in this episode that it had been, the 2 weeks since they took off for that mission and everything, and it's just interesting. And of course, Tara, walking back at the end of the episode, that had to have been, it was at least a day, I guess. I mean, because she slept in that one place, and then the next day, it seemed like she got there, and I was like, they couldn't have been that. They've been gone for 2 weeks, but they were like nothing. Like she just walked that in a day, or a full 2 days, I guess. So it's just like so far everything's just been so separated, and it's just like there's not much here. Like some stuff I like I said, the concept of the community I thought was cool. Um, the way they did this stuff, like her falling off the bridge, I thought that was a phenomenal scene. Like her falling off the bridge and her looking at him, and he may or may not be dead because she thought he left, and but he actually comes back to try to protect her, and so she gets pushed off the bridge. Like I just love that scene. I was like, that's not something we see in this show too often, where it's like she falls over this bridge and she's just looking at him and he's surrounded, and that's all she knows. She fell off and then washed up on shore. Fortunately, she lived, and I'm like that. Stuff like that I really love. So the episode, and this was probably my third favorite, or maybe even second favorite episode, but out of all the episodes we have, I shouldn't be like meh on this and meh on that. I should just be enjoying it, but everything's just so separated. It's like another TV show. It would be like watching a typical 1 hour TV show, but every episode is different main characters. So it's like nothing really has any true value at this point. Like nothing, they've done so much to split everyone up. It kind of bores me a little bit when I go through these episodes and we're just in one location. The whole episode is like you're in this one place. Typically, it's this one community, and for the most part, that has been boring me. I love the Kingdom because I thought it was really funny, so it just made me laugh a lot. So that's why I liked it. And I love the last episode because they finally went back to kind of the typical formula of the show, which has been since I say since season 3. They couldn't do it for season 2 because they were all at the farm, and before that, they were all at the one camp. So and even then they would go back and forth until Rick finally met up with everyone. But kind of one of the big things about the show is that they always go back and forth between stories. It's like here's what's happening in this location, and here's what's happening at the same time in this other location, and that's what makes it entertaining. We get to see multiple things. It feels like when it's just one location, I don't know why, but for some reason it just feels like it kind of drags on, especially when nothing's really happening. Admittedly, like um, the episode when the Saviors came to Alexandria, I mentioned that was a 90-minute episode, and I was like, I kind of felt like there was no reason for that to be 90 minutes long. It was just like the finale. Like they didn't really do anything. It was just like, oh, here's the Saviors being a-holes. And it's like, we knew that. He didn't kill anybody, so it wasn't like a holy crap, type of moment. It was just the same thing we knew already, just more of it to make us hate the character more. But it's like he killed two main characters. I think everyone hates him more than enough, and I just feel like it's not playing out as awesomely as it did in the comic books because of the way they're doing the pacing for it, I guess. But I don't know. It's just like everything's continuously separated. And like I said in the last episode, we had the hilltop, but we had Alexandria because we had two characters traveling from one location to the other, and eventually it does still end, at the hilltop. But it's like, at least there's something to that. It was like it's two separated stories that come together in the end, and there are a bunch of different elements to that. So we have, Carl going after Enid, who's going to pay her respects to this man that actually kind of brought her back into the fold of being a part of, Alexandria. And they have this little traveling adventure and stuff, their little moment with the roller skates, and then we have Sasha and Maggie and Jesus and, their conflict and dealing with the saviors and, the new guy coming in, or the second in command guy taking over for Negan, at the hilltop. So there are a bunch of different elements, and then we have, by the end, Carl and Jesus getting on the truck. Stuff like that was great. I was like, this is multiple stories. Eventually, they blend together in the end, and then it leads to something that I'm excited for. Two of these characters are basically on the truck, on their way to find out exactly where the Saviors live. That's exciting. Every other episode has been like, here's somebody in this one location, they do this one thing, and then that's it. And that's been like the bulk of the season has pretty much been that. And this episode was another one that kind of changed it up because technically, she was in this community, and then she does make it. In like the last 5 minutes of the episode, she actually is in Alexandria. But of course, it's kind of nothing. It was just her talking to Rosita. So we got two more episodes. I'm hoping that they end up more like the last episode because it's been like the only one that I've really loved. That, and like I said, the Kingdom, it was just hilarious. It just made me laugh, and I thought those characters were more exciting to find, probably because they were all brand new characters, and we got to see this really bonded community and how they follow this guy. When we get that ending scene with him and Carol, and it's just like, he's like, "Hey, I got a freaking tiger. Everybody follows me, so I just play it up, and that's it." So it was like there were interesting elements to it about this character and stuff, and everything else has kind of just been like, it's stuff's happening here and happening there. The one, where the Saviors go to Alexandria was a good episode. It had its, tense moments and stuff. But, like I said, it was one of those things where it was like, there's so much in that episode with it being basically a 90-minute episode. Yet I felt like there was no reason in the world for that thing to have 30 extra minutes on it because nothing happened in the episode. It was just tense. And that was it. Like, I honestly only remember like 5 points of that whole episode. It was when they wanted the guns. He threatened the woman's life who was, looking after the guns. He threatened her life, and they had to search for the guns. Deanna's son, he was being an a-hole, and he was out with Rosita, and she was trying to get the gun, and, Rick gave up the sniper rifle that Michonne had, and that was it. And the mattress thing at the very end that made Michonne really mad. So it was like, that was 90 minutes, and that was about it. And I guess Gabriel doing that cool little trick where he did the fake graves to trick Negan, but it was like 90 minutes, so for what? So we're going into our last two episodes before the mid-season finale, and honestly, I'm a little worried because I'm like, I don't know what the heck they're gonna do. Like I said, there are a million things because of Negan and reading the comic. There are a million things I can think of, but nothing I can really think to expect in 2 episodes unless they're gonna like kind of just fast track it, which I wouldn't mind because like I said, everything has just been so separated and admittedly kind of boring that if they just were like, all right, screw it, just fast track this like super, let's just speed it up real fast, I wouldn't mind that at all. I'd be like, sweet, at least something's happening because at this point it's like, okay, that's a cool moment, but it's like 4 or 5 cool moments, maybe out of all the episodes, it probably had, I could count like 7 cool moments. One cool moment per each episode. And it's that sort of thing where it's like, man, we come back from, I've said this a million times, for me, it was not awesome, it wasn't that cool of a premiere anyway. And then we go into stuff where it's just like, meh, nothing's happening. I'm not seeing some of the stuff I'm super excited for from the comic books or anything like that. And I know that, second half of the season, but as of right now, it's just like, man, nothing is happening. And I feel like I did a little bit at the end of, and we aren't there at the finale, or mid-season finale, but the mid-season finale for the last season, super disappointing. Not much really happened. Deanna died, and then they kind of end on it. I knew what was going to happen in the mid-season premiere for the last season, because I'm like, I know exactly where this is going, and that ended up being like everybody's favorite episode because they killed off like a bunch of people, and it was just pure chaos and cool montage of just like destroying zombies left and right. Great moment from the comics, and it was phenomenally translated in this series. But now we're just kind of like, it's almost just stagnant a little bit. So I don't know what to really expect. We only got 2 more episodes, and like I said, unless they start fast tracking stuff, which they might. I mean, they got the Jesus and Carl thing. That could easily lead to some great stuff, which I'm hoping it does. Because right now it's just like, this story's over here, this story's over there, and they aren't doing really what I feel like this show has always done best, which is weave everything together. It's like, hey, even if the stories are separated, at least show them at the same time. And it's like, okay, we're jumping back and forth, and it makes you want to know what's happening next. But it's weird. You wouldn't think you'd say this, but when you stick with just the same group of characters all the way through the same episode, it's just like, man, there's nothing to it. Like, it doesn't leave you, at least not to me, it doesn't really make me want more, because it almost starts and ends at the same place. It's like, nothing really happened. Ultimately, this happened. In between, kind of cool. There was some tension, this, that. Got resolved, and at the end, it was the exact same. And it's like, alright, that was pretty much it. Minor changes, nothing that's really changed anything grand, because nobody has talked to anybody yet about anything. So I'm hoping these next two episodes before we go on break are something really great. At least the finale, if it can just bring it all back around and just, I can't say anything because I don't want to spoil it, of course, but we have like a very specific moment, and I mentioned this before a little bit when the Saviors first, when they visited Alexandria. But if they do another visit, something like that, and they have a moment that they kind of pull from the comics, that would be great. It would be one moment, but I think it would be a pretty epic moment if they put it in there. And then we have some other stuff with Carl and Jesus if they actually get to the Savior camp, and that could lead to some really phenomenal stuff that I love from the comics as well. So it seems like they're leading right into the great stuff that I'm looking forward to, but they've also done like 100% exposition. It felt like everything has just been like, here is this, and it doesn't connect to anything else. It's just this thing, and then it's just like, whatever, let's go to the next thing, I guess. So that's how it's been. Sorry to just rant about this, but this episode, 7 episodes or 8 episodes, whatever, 6 episodes, I don't even know where we are, I forgot. But going through it, and this is just another one that kind of felt the same. I felt like I just had to spend a lot of time talking about it because there was nothing to talk about for this episode. Honestly, she went to the place. She didn't die, and she got back. Like I said, there were those couple of moments that I liked, but there wasn't much. I don't care about any of the characters in there. I don't remember any of their names. I never remember names, but I mean, like I said, they'll probably come back anyway. But I don't know. I just felt the need to rant a little bit, I guess, because it's just like this season hasn't really done anything for me. Love seeing the kingdom. Love seeing the tiger. I was super excited for that. And, the Alexandria thing didn't really play out like I was hoping. When the Saviors came to visit, it wasn't as epic as I thought it was going to be. It kind of couldn't be because of how they switch around character deaths and stuff. But they still can. There's some stuff they can do there. So I'm hoping for a secondary visit. And then the tertiary visit might be a bit more extreme. So we'll have to wait and see. But despite my ranting, I do want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And that's pretty much it. Just thanks for watching.